Hi, friends. I would like to welcome Risa Okech, who is from Nairobi, and I would like her to share her health condition. Thank you so much for joining, Risa.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Yes. So my name is Risa Okech, as it has been mentioned, and I'm 33 years old now. So why I felt this was necessary was because it contributes to when I was diagnosed growing up. Okay, just a little backstory. I was diagnosed, I think, towards the beginning of 2020 with PCOS, which is polycystic ovarian syndrome, and adenomyosis. And these are conditions that I'd never heard of before the diagnosis. So growing up, ever since I started my periods, I've always had painful periods. And it's been something that's been normal. Like we're always told, it's just normal period pains. This is what women go through. But through my journey, I've learned that that's actually not the truth. And I also had irregular periods. So my periods would either come, like, they were never consistent. They would never come on specific dates or every single month. Some months I would go skipping, and then other months they would be prolonged. And I always used to bleed heavily. So when I started noticing that there's something a bit off, this was now towards when I was just getting into my 30s. I used to have super painful cramps, like an entire week before my periods would start. And it wasn't a normal type of pain. It was really bad, to the point where, like, when I go to the bathroom, I would like be crunched over for like a while before I could gather the strength to get up. So in December of 2019, that's when I just started, like, the first sign of something abnormal was that, like, my period started earlier than I had expected, and it looks like period that had been there, like how the blood looks like towards the end, all blood, but that's not what was coming before the actual period started. So my period came as normal, went for the number of days, which was 7 days, which to me at the time was normal, and then stopped for 1 week, then started again the next week, then stopped for a week, then started again. So I was having like short cycles, but like bleeding quite heavily. Then eventually, like, the bleeding just started and it never stopped. And that's when now I went to the gynecologist. And at the time as well, I started having hives all over my body. And I've never had any food allergies. I only had allergies when I was a child to eggs. But other than that, I'd been living perfectly fine, perfectly healthy. Then when I started having hives, and it got so bad that I couldn't sleep at all at night. And that's when I also went to the doctor before the whole bleeding story started. Then when I went to the doctor, they assumed it might be some type of allergy, but that's something that's never gone away. Even right now, I'm still on medication for it. Like, if I skip even one dosage, like, it's just chaotic. So that's now what happened when I started seeing the doctor. Then when I went to a gynecologist, and he is the one who sent me for an ultrasound, diagnosed me with adenomyosis, which for those who might not know, it's bleeding within the walls of the uterus. So every month we have a cycle. Your uterus lining thickens and then sheds. So if you have adenomyosis, it sheds, but instead of being released, it's within the muscles of the uterus. So, and that's the difference between adenomyosis and endometriosis. The lining grows elsewhere in your body and sheds, like, through every month, and that's what leads to the heavy bleeding and the pain. So my journey towards getting the diagnosis, I feel like it was an early diagnosis, but then we are still going through the journey, because I still don't have a conclusive solution. So the first gynecologist I saw was at Nairobi Hospital, which was one of the best hospitals in Nairobi. and he's a much older man. And I think from my experience, generally in Kenya, most gynecologists are men, and I think that has been for me the most challenging thing, because I feel like men don't quite have empathy the way women do have. So he put me on contraceptives for like about 2 months. And after the 2 months, the contraceptive was to last for 2 months of treatment. But then on the second month, I started bleeding again, despite being on the contraceptive. Then that's when I started. He changed the medication to I think it's called Depo, where they inject your stomach, and then it's supposed to stay within there for at least 3 months. And then that's how we were meant to manage the disease.
Risa,
So
if I could,
sorry.
yeah, if I could ask two questions. One
Oh
was,
yes.
how long did it take for the diagnosis to actually come?
Okay, so I still don't think I have the correct diagnosis, or if I do, it's still not being managed properly. And at the time when I got the diagnosis, it took just a couple of days to get the official diagnosis. But I feel like I've had this condition since I started my periods. Yeah, and the medication.
So how many years?
Sorry.
So how many years did it take, like from the start of the
Oh,
disease to when it was diagnosed?
I would say probably about 20 years.
Okay.
Yeah, because like growing up, I just knew that pain was normal, or irregular periods was part of, like, because when I was younger, I was told that your periods will stabilize as the older you get, but that didn't happen for me.
Right.
Yeah. And in terms of medication, I'm not on medication for it at the moment, because like at some point I started like the medication that I was on was not working with the gynecologist that I was seeing. So at the same time, I was seeing a dermatologist, who is the one who now diagnosed me with chronic urticaria. But before that diagnosis, it was known as dermatitis. I've forgotten the name, but it's something dermatitis.
So this is for the hives.
Yes. Yes, this is for the hives. So according to the dermatologist, he believed that my periods and the hives were related. Right. Because I would always, just before like I start bleeding, I would break out, which I believe to an extent is true, because even this during this Christmas period, just before my periods began, the hives broke out really badly despite being on medication. So I had to take steroids to be able to manage well. Yeah. So he referred me to a different gynecologist, who at the time, because according to him, like the hives were being caused because of allergy to progesterone. So he referred me to a different gynecologist who he works with. So he had put me on contraceptives that did not have progesterone. And I was on that for about a month. And after that month, my periods now became regular. So now I'm not on any medication. But the only sign that they still a problem is that my periods are still very painful and very heavy. Yeah.
What are the do's and don'ts? What have you learned through this journey which might help others?
Okay, so I think the do's and don'ts. Okay, for what I feel like should have been done differently on my case is to understand that pain is not normal. That's what I've come through, reading reading different stories and all that. That like it's normal to have cramps here and there, but pain which is so debilitating, whereby like it affects your daily life, is not normal. So I would advise people that like the minute you start feeling that pain, you should go and see a doctor. And also heavy bleeding is not normal. And one sign for me that things were not okay was like when I would bleed so much that I would pass huge clots. And I remember one time showing my mom, and she said like that clot even looks like a fetus, like when you have a miscarriage. And that's not normal, because I was not pregnant. So passing clots like that should also be a sign that, you need to go and see a doctor. currently it is, but I still feel like there's a gap when it comes to diagnosing these issues, because per my reading, and I also spoke to the doctor that you had referred me to, the one based in India,
Right.
and we know that this is a chronic situation. It's a chronic condition, which, per my understanding, goes away with menopause, because the cycle is what fuels it. But then doctors here seem to believe that it is not a permanent condition, like that there's a cure for it. But from my discussion with that doctor, and from my readings, it's just something that needs to be managed. So currently, I'm not really seeing any doctor for the gynecological issue. And on top of it, oh yes, I've remembered the name that the dermatologist diagnosed me with, progesterone dermatitis, which is a very rare condition. Yeah. So it's I still feel like there's a gap and there needs to be more research to be done.
I'm not sure how much I can help, but we'll see whether through this channel we can have some discussion, have
Yeah.
some girls like you and Shireen, if she agrees, and a few others together and have a discussion on it, and request also maybe a doctor's discussion on it. I'm not sure how much one can manage through this channel, but certainly I hope that we can contribute in some way that the situation gets a little better and you feel.
Yes.
Anything else you would like to add?
I think I would like one other thing that the doctor that you referred me to had also mentioned that I think is important is your body is a holistic system, and I think that's how I've been able to manage so far. It's not as bad as the when we last spoke, because she told me that we can do everything possible medically, but at the end of the day, you mentally, emotionally, like the body is a system of equilibrium, and just trying to balance all of that. So I've been trying to meditate and also like watch my diet. Like I've seen, since I cut out gluten and reduced on it, like my body is much better.
Okay, that's I think very useful tips, Risa. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.